title of today's panel is The Art of Wealth and How Women Can Take Control of Their Finances. So the first part, I'm going to focus a little bit on the careers and financial services. And then about halfway through, I want to get to the meat about some of those takeaways and some of those steps you can take. So I'm going to start out by having each of our panelists introduce themselves, as well as their organizations and why they joined financial services. Apeksha, you want to go first?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Apeksha, and I'm head of design at Wealthfront. For those of you who aren't aware, Wealthfront is a digital financial advisor. So we have an audacious mission of providing high-quality, sophisticated financial advice to everyone. What that means is, in how we do it, is we help clients by creating a financial plan for their short-term and long-term life goals. And then we invest the money for them in the most efficient possible way to achieve those goals. The mission for me was so inspiring, which is why I decided to join Wealthfront as a designer. I've always been motivated by very gnarly problems that if they find solutions, they can completely be transformational to how broken the systems might be in the society today and what that might mean for the future. So it's very inspiring for me to be in this space.
Awesome. And Laura?
Hi, I'm Laura Wensley. I work for Unison as Director of Finance. We are a fintech company specializing in equity financing for real estate. So we co-invest with homeowners to help them buy their house. Our company was started with the mission of helping make homes more affordable to the individual consumer. And so we work with new homeowners and existing homeowners to help them consolidate debt and move away from debt so that they can have a better, a larger share of their home ownership is done through equity. And with new homeowners, we help them enter into the market sooner and increase their share of equity in their home.
Awesome, thank you. And just a little brief thing from my point of view, and Nicole did a great job on the introduction, but one of the things that Tastytrade does is we produce 8 hours of live programming every day, talking about the financial markets. Yay, it's on Tastytrader. And we do like 50 different shows for beginners all the way to advanced, for millennials all the way to retirees. And it really is, all the content's free at tastytrade.com. And we teach you how to invest in the market using options. And then we also have our very own brokerage, as Nicole mentioned, Tastyworks, which we launched last year. So one of the things in finance, women in finance in general, there's no real comprehensive study that says, this is exactly how many women are in finance. There's a lot of different studies that are out there, but taking the ones from like S&P 500, you have about 29% of senior level executives that are women, and only between 6 and 7% that are CEOs, right? And so one of the things that the question pops in, well, I'm a glass half full kind of person. So it's not, I'm not saying, oh, those numbers are horrible. I'm saying, hey, those are great. How do we make it better? But how did those women get there, right? What are the things that they did to become successful in financial services? And so that's the question, ultimately, that I bring to you guys. And that's really more honed in on, what is one piece of career advice that you either received or you give that has helped you achieve success and be in the position you're in today?
Well, I could go first.
Yeah.
I say, in thinking about this question, the most important thing to me has been the mentors that I've had and reaching out to those mentors. And that's something that I personally see as my responsibility. I know people talk about mentorship, and it's not about sitting back and waiting. It's about going around and finding people who know about something or can give you insight, and actually, knocking on their door repeatedly and saying, putting your hand up and asking, what you can do for them, and helping them achieve their objectives so that when it comes to the times where you need advice, you're kind of, they have no problem giving up their time to help you. So that's something that I think has been really important. Another thing is doing the things that no one else wants to do. You know, putting your, when there's work to be done, you know, and there's stuff that obviously just might take time or might take effort, putting in those hours and doing those extra hours and doing things that other people may see as something that's not as exciting or not as thrilling has been something that, to me, has actually opened up opportunities, and taking advantage of those opportunities have been very important.
That's great. Apeksha?
Yeah, so when I think about this, I feel that irrespective of the industry or the gender makeup of the industry, I believe that success is essentially a byproduct of how inspired you feel by your work. And if you're inspired, you'd want to do your best. I think there are two prerequisites for that, for me personally. I think that it's very important to have alignment of your personal values with that of the company that you work for. If that alignment isn't there, every day I will feel very uninspired and not want to be at work. So that's one. And the second prerequisite, I think, is I think on a more personal level, I try and cultivate a growth mindset, one that's motivated by learning and not by titles or levels. I feel like if that motivation changes, I take away inspiration from myself, and that doesn't allow me to do my best work. It just gets in the way.
That's great. I totally agree with that. So I'll just add a quick snippet in here too, is one of the things that I think is really important is personally knowing your own narrative and actually knowing the numbers of your department or of your company and having an interest in its success. And what I mean by that is take the time to ask questions. Take the time to really understand the economics and the key metrics of that department or of your company as a whole. Go read some white papers on your industry. And it doesn't stop there. You have to actually use your voice to your boss or to others, and all of a sudden, you become top of mind. You become the person that they go, oh, hey, so-and-so was interested in that. Or you're just asking questions, and guess what? That's an invitation to the table. Oh, she's really interested in that. And all of a sudden, you start to get invited to more meetings, and as long as you're voicing an opinion that you have and bringing some piece of information to the table, or at least asking a question, that's golden. You will absolutely move up within your organization.
I think the assumption there, though, is that you are intrinsically motivated. Mm-hmm. And I think that intrinsic motivation gets built up when you actually really, really do care about what you're doing and why you're there. And it's interesting, like when I think about one of the values of Wealthfront is, you should treat other people like you want to be treated yourself. And we behave like that with each other in the company, and that's how we treat our clients as well. So when we were working on our first product for helping people plan for their retirement, it was interesting for me and very, very encouraging to see how it was a complete non-discussion to not force our clients to open Wealthfront accounts. We all were operating with the assumption that, of course, like we will only recommend the Wealthfront accounts if they're right for our clients. But first look at the accounts they already have and help them optimize their money across those accounts. And if there is a need for a Wealthfront-like account, then we'll recommend it to them. So I think like that to me feels like you're there for the right reason and inspires that intrinsic motivation.
Doing the right thing and always focused on the customer and the customer's needs, I think, is golden.
Yes.
So let's talk about the customer a little bit. And from a technology standpoint, so each of your companies has an important technology component. And over the last 2 decades, really, technology has made finance more accessible to the end customer. And that accessibility of information, as well as expansion of really human connectivity in general, has helped, but has also been challenging for companies, right? So Apeksha, you're head of design at Wealthfront, and tell the audience how you design to capture a specific group, whether it's women or whether it's just a younger demographic, whatever it may be, or what the secret to really capturing them, that broader audience or more inclusive customer base is. What is it that you're doing differently from a design standpoint?
Sure. So I think for us, the goal is to not just make an individual successful financially, but to make a household successful. And so we've taken it upon ourselves to be very inclusive and serve everyone. And when you think about a household, then you are gender agnostic or extremely, you want to be conscious of everyone's needs. That is inclusive of all genders, right? And so what we do is we try and understand a very diverse set of clients very, very closely and deeply to understand what are their values, what are their hopes and dreams, to inform our brand and our product decisions. And so, for example, like on Wealthfront, if you, one of the things in this process of talking to our clients, we learned that our clients are not necessarily motivated by this idea of accumulating wealth. In fact, oh, sorry. So,
better.
In the process of learning a lot about our clients, we realized that a lot of our clients are most of our clients, but this is inclusive of men and women alike, that they're not motivated by the idea of accumulating wealth. In fact, this idea of wanting to be wealthy is very off-putting as an idea to our clients. And instead, what motivates them is to achieve financial security and freedom to have enough and not worry about when they need to take care of the people in their lives beyond themselves. And so what that means for product is when you go to the app and you are there to create a college planning goal, say for your child and saving for college, parents can upload a picture of their child. When you are saving to buy a home, we pull pictures of the neighborhoods where you can imagine growing your family. And so these become almost like emotional backdrops that give meaning to the numbers on the screen suddenly.
You humanize it.
Yeah,
You're humanizing it, right?
Yes, exactly. And so, so I think like these deeply understanding clients allows you to then build a brand and a product that reflects them and the way they imagine their finances.
That's great. That is great. So I'm going to shift this a little bit to a little bit more personal focused, but kind of the same type of question. So this is for Laura. So how has accessibility of financial information helped or challenged you personally?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm gonna take a step back from that, and I'll give you a long-winded answer. When I think, for me, in terms of building my own personal wealth and accessibility of information, it took me, one of the things that I realized was, okay, if I want to say retire at 60 or 65, I'm going to have at that point enough funds to live off of interest until I'm 100. So let's call that 30 years, and 30 to 40 years, and so thinking about your wealth in that way kind of changed my perspective because in order to build that accumulation, you have to start early. And there's a couple ways to build wealth. One is through active income, and the other one's through passive income. Active income coming from your employment, your career, and building your wealth through your career, and the other coming from your passive income, which is your real estate, your personal financial investments, or starting your own business. And so that, to me, even thinking about the world in that way, kind of got me imagining my own wealth and my own situation, and I started to look. That's when I started to look for companies that would actually also help other people do that, and that's how I kind of got to Unison.
Yeah, and I remember you saying too, just all the information that's out there, like when we had talked previously, all the information that's out there, it can be overwhelming, right? And so to sift through some of that information, there are now a number of firms that will actually, you know, get rid of the noise for you, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's, I also, to sift through the noise for me, I talk to people. I reach out to my contacts, I ask questions, I, you know, confirm information from one source to the other. You know, with so much noise out there, it is very difficult to understand what's true and what's not, and in a changing environment as well, it's pretty tough.
Right.
Yeah, I think.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I just want to touch upon your point, which was like sifting through that noise, and because it is extremely overwhelming, access to information is not enough. It's about if that information is tailored for people in a way that they can truly digest it and then act on it. I think that's where design is pretty powerful, because we take so much care and put so much effort into thinking about how to make any piece of advice or information actionable and move people closer to a better financial decision. Yeah. And because if clients are financially successful, then we as a business will be successful.
Totally agree. So the one thing I want to switch to now are really getting to the meat of some of the takeaways, some of the things that you can do, some of the steps you can take in building your wealth. And part of this goes without saying, but I'm going to say it anyway. And maybe this is because I started out in accounting a long time ago in the beginning of my career, but knowing your own personal finances as a whole, right? Coming out of the gates, being organized, knowing what your personal income statement looks like. What is your income? Where is it coming from? How much expenses do you have? How much is left over that you can actually do something with, right? Whether you're spending it or whether you're actually going and investing it. What does your balance sheet look like? What are your assets, your cash, your investment, right? And what are those liabilities? So what's your net worth? The reason I walk through that is because you need to organize all of that to be able to know where your starting point is. Because when you're going to look at building wealth, you need to have a plan, one way, shape, or form, whether you're making the plan, whether you're looking to an advisor or using a service. So having something that's measurable and something you can look back on and go, yeah, I got here, and set goals, key. And again, it goes without saying, but sometimes just a reminder of that. People go, oh yeah, I have to sort of figure out what that plan is, where I want to get to. Because if, like anything, if you continue to do the same thing, you should expect the same results, right? I mean, that's the day-age-old saying. So Laura, I'm gonna come to you first. What are some of those things that for you that are, you know, the first step that you take in building wealth?
Yeah, we talked a little bit about that, building wealth in your career earlier, but on the passive side, you know, for me, I strongly believe in real estate assets. You know, looking at where real estate growth has been in the last number of years compared to your employment income, you know, we encourage people to enter into the real estate market as soon as you can afford it. You know, you can have that asset there that you're not paying rent, and you're now investing in your own personal wealth. You're investing in your own piece of real estate, and that will appreciate. You know, in most of the major cities in the U.S., the real estate market is growing faster than, you know, your employment income is growing. Employment income is growing at 3%, and real estate's growing, you know, anywhere from 4 to 20% in some places annually. So.
But that's one of the things that Unison does. Mm-hmm. They help people actually acquire real estate, right? Yeah. As part of their portfolio. So, Apeksha, how about you? What would you say are some of the important first steps that you take in starting to build wealth?
Yeah, I would say open a Wealthfront account.
That's a given.
No, I'm just kidding. I mean, you should explore it though. But so the reason why I said part jokingly but part seriously, because so first of all, let me just be upfront. I'm not a financial expert, so I am not in a position to give you advice. But what I would say is the first step is to just have a mindset where you believe this is important. I think for the longest time, I was shying away from this responsibility. I was a very good saver. I had, you know, a steady income, and that's it. That's all I was doing. And so saving is a really good first step, but you don't completely own your financial future unless you start investing that money. So once I opened an investment account, I felt like it was daunting at first, but it was really simple and easy to do. You really don't have to make any decisions if you choose an automated service, and it just makes all of the decisions for you. And then you just sit back and you watch the reward for being a good saver. So that to me was like a very pleasant surprise, is how easy it was and how wise of a decision it is, and how simple it is to do. So yeah.
Yeah, I think and I'm going to add to that, because when you open your Wealthfront account, you can open your Tastyworks account. But there is something to be said for opening a brokerage account. And the reason I'm putting that out there is because once you're ready to take that first step, you've already cleared the hurdle of going, okay, now what brokerage? And okay, now what do I do? So opening the account is one thing. Again, whatever brokerage you want to. But on top of that, there is so much information out there. And again, while Tastytrade has an abundance of information, free information for you to learn how to trade on your own, place a trade is really powerful. Even if you do something very small, you make one small trade, you are in the market. And all of a sudden, your view on everything changes. If you do it in paper money, you're not going to feel it, okay? You're not going to actually feel it or learn from it. Once you make the trade, and trade small. You know, we teach every day, trade small, trade often. Anything you want to get good at, you need to practice, okay? You need to do over and over and over again. And but you need to do it small. And even for individuals, our customers, ourselves, one of the things that we still do decades later is we stay small. Because you don't want one trade to completely blow you out, okay? But getting in the market, being active, is really a powerful thing. It doesn't mean you have to be slinging, 20 trades a day or slinging futures. You don't want to be doing that. It's really about staying small. So that's, so the powerful message there is about really just getting engaged and taking that first step forward. My favorite saying is just do it, right, with Nike. And until you jump in and do it, you're not going to feel it the same way. So, I'm running out of time here. I do have one other question I want to touch on. And so what I'll do is I'm going to wrap two into one. And one is, what are some of the things to watch out for that you should know? So when you're jumping in, taking steps to control your finances, to build wealth, what are the things that you should be watching out for? And just really quick, something you should watch out for.
Well, I guess there are lots and lots of things you probably watch out for if you are, we hear this all the time, when you deal with traditional financial institutions, you have to watch out for fees, and you have to watch out for hidden fees and negotiate, and there's so much. The list is endless, and I would say it's a pretty sad state of affairs. So, but my hope is, and very confidently so, is that these will be issues of the past. These will be worries of the past, because I think the future that we're envisioning is one that is truthful and transparent, and where clients' needs are put first. So I guess if you are in the wrong hands, then you do have to worry about a lot. But if you're in the right hands, hopefully these will not be your worries.
Laura?
Yeah, that question's a broad one, and it's different depending on where you're investing your personal wealth. So whether it's investments or real estate or even in your own business. And so I'm going to take the other side and say, well, what can you do to ensure that you are watching out for all of the things? And that's, speak to people who've done it before. So if you're investing in the markets, speak to your friends and family about, their experiences. Speak to your friends about their experiences. If you're investing in real estate, find someone who's just gone through the housing buying process and ask them their questions. Ask them, what were your experiences like? What do you wish you'd known in advance? And if you're starting your own business and putting your wealth there, the same thing. Find people who've done it.
Yeah, so transparency of fees and really, doing your research, ask the questions. Those are both really, really important. So one very last question, and I'll throw it to the group. I don't know if we're going to have time for questions for the audience or not, but I'm going to throw one more question to you. What have you done to take control of your finances or personally invest that you are most proud of? Single thing. Most thing you're proud of. Apeksha?
Honestly, just opening an investment account. It's
Okay.
very simple. It's like
Wealthfront.
No, I'm not.
Just kidding.
I'm really not kidding about this. Like, I encountered Wealthfront before I worked there, and so I just was asking a bunch of friends like what they were doing with their savings, and I was reading a lot, and I was still undecided because there's so much information, and I'm no expert. I asked a bunch of friends. They are no experts. And so eventually, it was only after I joined Wealthfront where I was surrounded by people who are experts. And I could ask as many questions as possible. And then I felt confident of like why a diversified portfolio is the right one for me, because I don't want to take the kind of risk trading every day in stocks. I don't want to be that person who is that engaged and taking that daily stress. So for me, it's like doing it right once and then forgetting about it. And so I opened that, and I've had some peace of mind after that.
Yeah, and mine's similar. I started my career getting my work to automatically deduct 15% of my paycheck and put it into an account. And it was tough. It was really tough. It was, it's hard the first couple of years when you're not making much, and it's, you're living poor. But after a few years, I was able to go and afford my first piece of real estate, and I never looked back.
And so small pieces, small steps make a big difference. It all adds up, right? And my favorite, most thing that I'm most proud of is 25 years ago when I placed my first trade. Not on my phone this way, on my phone this way. I had to call my broker to actually place a trade. But that's something I'm probably the most proud of, because it is something that literally I catapulted into feeling like I had more control. So I'll go back to that just do it sort of mentality. Small, but it totally works. So I am going to throw it out to the audience if we have time for just a couple questions.
Hi, my name is Bethany, and I'm here. I'm in my second semester of my graduate program at Fletcher University. And I was just wondering, so I have an IRA account, I have my 401ks, and I'm really interested in these new financial advising tools that are online, but I'm very afraid of compromising my data. Can you speak a little bit to that, like how your data is protected? Is it more secure than a bank, et cetera?
So yeah, I can take that. So I think if you're comfortable having an account and the level of security that you get with the bank, most online services, including ours, have the same level of bank level security. So your data is not going to be compromised just the way it is not with a bank. What is interesting about if once you have that security, what is interesting about sharing that data is essentially you are letting the service do all of the work for you because they're automating it. So for example, some of the things that people believe they have to do, which is, I must know how much I'm saving per month or how much I'm spending annually and all of those things. You have to track every bit of money you spend and maintain spreadsheets, et cetera, right? You can, once you link your accounts, these automated services, we can just calculate everything for you, so you don't literally have to do nothing. And what we can do is look at where your money is distributed and see if that is the right distribution based on the aspirations and goals you have. If you want to buy a home or if you want to start a family, like is that where your money should be, right? And so you don't have to worry about anything at all once you feel comfort with giving that data in a secure way.
And so one thing I'll add to that too here, cybersecurity is a massive issue in general, right? And everybody, we especially as regulated firms, we have an additional level of standards that we have to answer to. And so while there's some comfort in that, I'm also someone who says, listen, we also see what has happened with a lot of very large firms and with data breaches and things like that. So the important thing is to ask some of those questions, even before opening an account and talking directly to, ask for the development group, hear from them what some of those cybersecurity, policies and procedures are like. It's okay to ask, and you should ask, right? Because it's your data. But do know that from a regulated entity standpoint, we do have this additional, level of standards that we're held to. So does that answer your question? Okay. Yeah. Anybody else?
Sure. Hi, Catherine St. John of Recognia, now Trading Central. I had a question for Apeksha. I was curious, you made a statement about how you're not an expert in the markets, and yet you're head of design for a fantastic company in the industry, and I'd love to hear how you navigate that sort of domain knowledge and also solving for the real problems that come with designing that product.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
So
not being intimidated to get involved in the space.
yes. So that's a great question. So one, I would say building a product takes more than a designer. So we have many disciplines. We have engineers, we have researchers who are the experts. So they are statisticians and they're basically financial experts. And then there are engineers, product managers, data scientists. There is a whole group of people that we work with that's all working on making product decisions. The unique value that design provides in that multidisciplinary group is bringing that human perspective. So the researchers, for example, will help us understand what is the right advisory stance to take. How, for a given client's financial situation, like what is the right thing to do from a financial advisory standpoint. But then, so it's important to engage in that conversation and understand it well enough so we can then translate it in human terms that people can then access through a very easy digital interface. And so we don't always get it right the first time. We do a very thorough iterative process. So we build very early prototypes and then get feedback and then get more feedback. It's every 2 weeks we share our early designs with clients to see if it's really intuitive and they can achieve the tasks we need them to do in under a minute sometimes or less.
The other thing is it's probably nice that you don't have the expertise in that specific area because there's no preconceived notions, right?
Yes.
She's just looking at it as a creative designer and a person and a human. I mean, it's actually refreshing.
Yeah, it's useful to have that naive mindset and preserve it as a designer because you are the advocate for the customers, and the customers, our clients, don't know that much more than I do. And so representing them is actually quite useful on a team.
Joe Welch, Legal Shield. I have a comment and then there's just two quickly things. In terms of identity protection, there's two different aspects of it, and it's actually the field that I'm in is about identity theft, education, and restoration. And so the banks is one aspect of that because like credit cards or accounts and things that are happening in that way, there's that level of protection, But the reality is that it's no longer if we're going to be breached, but when, and what are we doing about our Social Security numbers and what's happening out in the world. And so I have a ton of cards. You are welcome to come up to me and talk to me about that. But the other thing I wanted to say is I wanted to thank the panel, and I just wanted to say specifically to Apeksha, just as a woman of color, I'm Latina, and hearing also your words as a woman of color, and just how I feel about approaching wealth and allowing wealth into my life. You said, you know, I did the savings thing, but then I had to make that big leap. I think that, I'm wondering, in your experience, are you finding that especially communities of color are having that hard time going from who they are from day to day into bringing that wealth abundance into their life?
It's a good question.
Yeah, I think I would say the idea of finances in general are daunting for everyone. It's a universal sort of feeling. People, irrespective of gender or color, finances don't feel approachable to most people. That said, I think when it comes to gender, it can be, for women, it can be even more daunting because traditionally it has been a male-dominated industry. And so the cultural norms of that industry make it very off-putting for women to engage with it, engage with the people in the industry even. And then I think you would take it a step further when you look at the subset within that, which is women of color or people of color, and whether what are their additional barriers. I think I wouldn't, on a personal level, I guess I can say, like, the relationship with finance for different cultures is different. And so I definitely grew up in a culture where finances is not, having good savings behavior and being mindful of your finances and not taking money for granted was something I grew up with. A lot of cultures, that's true. And in some cultures, it's the opposite, which is just getting day by day, and if you are secure there, that's the norm there. So I think your culture can sort of lend itself to having a more conducive mindset for finance or not, and you could be at a disadvantage or an advantage that way. So yeah.
So I'm just going to wrap that up. Again, if anybody has questions afterwards, certainly we'll make our way towards the back of the room. But I want to thank you guys again all for being here. I want to thank our panelists, and of course, checking out Unison, Wealthfront, Tastytrade, any of those to really sort of help you make some of those first steps in controlling your finances and building wealth. Absolutely great places to check out. So thank you again. Appreciate it.